Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the community track at BlackHat EU. And this is the OWASP slot. The title of this presentation is, Are You Big Friendly Giant? My name is Grant Ongers. There's a lot of information on the slide. I apologize for that. There are three takeaways that you can take from here. One is I'm very heavily involved in the community. I'm fortunate enough to have been elected to represent the OWASP global community on the board this year. I've been a DEF CON goon for a decade and BlackHat for nearly as long, although usually on the other side of the camera. So this is an unusual experience for me. The second thing you take away from the slide is how to get a hold of me. Email or Twitter is usually the easiest at REWTD on Twitter or anywhere else, just about. If you have a commercial query, reach out to me at securedelivery.io. But if it's a project or foundation or chapter related, then please reach out to me at my owasp.org email address. The last thing you can see from the slide and possibly from the beard is that I've done this for a very long time. A little bit about secure delivery on the commercial side. We're an AppSec focused company. It's our mission to meaningfully move application security practices forward through changing software in the industry. We're trusted to deliver assessments, guidance, and training for some of the biggest, most innovative companies. More importantly, on the foundation side, it's worth mentioning that we're currently a two-armed entity. We are a project organization supporting the efforts of over 150 open source projects, including things like the OWASP top 10s. Yes, there are a few top 10s now. OWASP Zap, the world's best value for money DAS tool. Yes, it is free, but it is also good. OWASP SAM and the SVS, which set the standards for delivering software and for the software that's being delivered. We're also a community organization. Chapters in many tech cities. There's probably one near you, and if there isn't, it's probably time to reach out and perhaps get one started. And we do a lot of conferences, both online and in person, back in the days when in person was still a thing. So, are you BFG? What on earth am I talking about? Well, it came about because I figured that I would put together a red unless blue finds green. So what is that all about? Let's start with who that's all about, although this is probably familiar to many of you. Starting with red. Red is basically the rock stars. You guys know this, of course, because a lot of you are this. But red is where InfoSec is really at, and it's the part of the field that's most fun and most glamorous. It's also the part that everybody assumes that you're in if you say that you're in information security. They hack all the things, except Facebook. You can tell your Uncle Bob you're not going to do that for him this Christmas either. We at OWASP call these spectacular individuals the breakers. Breakers here represented by the ever-intelligent Matilda, highly praised in the book, which is titled for her amazing knowledge and precocious pranks. Yes, those pranks. You know what I mean, right, team? In our modern fairy tale, it's their job to breach the castle, either by finding a secret passageway in, it's always the sewers, right? Or more usually by sneaking in, pretending to be someone or something else. So what about blue then? Well, blue teams are the cannon fodder of the InfoSec world. At least that's how we often feel. I say we here because this is one of the hats I've worn a lot and still do wear on occasion. These folks stand on the castle walls on dark, cold nights in the rain and the snow, and they protect everyone and everything within. And of course, these brave folk are called defenders. And I've chosen to represent them here using Mr. Twit, mostly because of his hug-tight, sticky glue attempts to catch those flighty birds that he believes are so tasty. Because the fact that he bears a remarkable resemblance to me didn't hurt at all. Those of you familiar with the character will know a little bit more than the rest about my worldview on playing defense while wearing this hat than the others do at this point. But we press on. So who are green? Well, this may be the first persona that's relatively new to most BlackHat attendees. Green as a color represents growth and the creation of new things. To that end, green are the delivery folks in the organization, from product owners right the way through to engineers, like developers or QA people. Green are the builders in the OWASP world, and they outnumber the blue team by about 100 to 1. They're also the folks that we're generally most engaged with, usually, we being OWASP. This is where my analogy wears a little thin, though. I needed a human, approachable character in the world of BHE, so I picked Sophie. She's the only one I could pick, to be fair. And we see her here holding Frobscottle, the magical product that the BFG so enjoyed. That is, after all, the role of Green, to deliver the product. These rockstar builders are the ones who build the castle and who are constantly changing it. They're adding new towers and doors, often adding a new sewer or two. Moving on, though. Why red? What I mean with this is that red always wins. I know it, blue knows it, red knows it. Now you know it too if you didn't already. But why is that actually the case? Well, to start with, they have the best stuff. Okay, this slide is a shameless plug and a shout out to some great Breaker OWASP flagship projects. Starting with a couple of tools every pen tester should have in their kit. OWASP Zap, this is dynamic application security testing, as it should be. If you've never played with it, please do take it for a spin. You'll love how easy they've made it to automate some testing with it. Hit up Simon, Apsion, or Ricardo, or Rick Kingthorne for more details. Then there's AMAS. This is the OWASP Everything is Connected tool. It does DNS enumeration, attack surface mapping, external asset discovery, all covered and with a very enthusiastic and capable team behind it. Jeff or Anthony, who are linked off the project page for AMAS, will be happy to help you out with what they're doing there. There are a lot of very, very expensive tools that do or attempt to do what AMAS does for free. WebSTG, which is a documentation project, a security testing guide, which aims to provide premier cybersecurity testing resources for web applications. Ellie, Rick, and Matteo are the folk leading that effort. There's also a mobile security testing guide, and they aim to deliver the industry standard for mobile application security testing. That's Carlos and Sven. Again, all of these people that you can reach out to are linked off of the relative pages. But all kidding aside, these are fantastic tools and well worth far more than the price you'd pay for them. They're free. We're an open source foundation. But Red Team is not usually shackled by costs. They usually get all the toys they need, even the expensive ones. The thing is, though, Red don't need expensive tools. Dr. Ng wrote an article in 2017 highlighting these 2 points as being the most responsible for the disconnect between attackers and defenders. At that point, or the point that she wrote this, the ratio was about 1.2 billion in costs to attackers to about 395 billion for the defense. That's nearly $330 spent in defending for every dollar an attacker spends attacking. I think we all understand the second side of this equation, the complexities of modern infrastructure, what they look like. I actually recently did a talk with Nina Ali, who's the DEF CON biohack village, on the ever-growing complexities around hospitals with the devices connecting to them. And they're not alone. Average corporate network has an insane number of random devices they need to allow connectivity to. Let's not even talk about how complex cloud solutions make this picture. And in today's world, where everyone's working remote, everything on my home network, including my television, is now potentially part of that corporate infrastructure we're having to defend. Red only needs one win. In 2019, Sammy Kamkar, yes, of course, Sammy is my hero too, said this at the DTX EU. And of course, he was right. Blue has to win all the time to win it all. Red only needs one win. Red really only needs one win. Donnie Wentz at the CSISC reiterated this, along with the cost aspect of it all in the 2019 Journal of Cybersecurity and Information Systems. He goes on in that paper to propose ways to increase cost to the attacker, as well as how to decrease the cost of defense. So trying to redress that imbalance between the 330 to 1 that is essentially happening between attack and defense. But how effective can we really be there? Really only just one. Boss Alberts, who switched from red team to blue team, talks about how blue team is completely handcuffed by having no real insights into red's playbook. The answers here generally have been to assume some kind of knowledge and then try and find the exploitable issues. The problem is that this, as Bus very clearly underlines, is not a binary exercise. Right? Exploitable itself is dependent on several factors. Just to quote Bus, exploitability is a weird term. It sounds like an objective valuation, but it's really a function of subjective attacker motivation, experiences, resources, and skill. So how exploitable something is tied to how much time, skill, and money an attacker is willing to throw at the problem. And remember, they're investing 1/3% of what we have to on the defense side. What about blue then? Well, blue have cool stuff too. Of course, more shameless plugs for some OWASP tools here. The OWASP Attack Surface Detector command line tool and a ZAP or burp plugin used to uncover otherwise unlinked endpoints, optional parameters, and things for those. Often DAS tooling that's being used won't see them, so a tool like this helps you to actually get a full idea of what you're testing for. Threat Dragon, which is one of the many good OWASP tools that's used for threat modeling. Then, of course, in awareness, you've got the top 10. And at the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that there's more than one top 10 now. Well, the top 10 is probably the most recognized output that the foundation produces. It was originally designed to be an awareness document, but it's been held up as a standard by many standards organizations now. Ways to not screw things up, really. But ways in which we still do regularly. Blue uses this to educate as a rule, which is good. Sometimes Blue uses this to measure by, which is sometimes less good. Brian, Andrew, Neil, and Thorsten are the folks to speak to about the top 10. Actually, probably not Andrew. He's currently swamped as the executive director for the foundation too. The top 10 has spawned a whole lot of others too. To name some of them, I think there's like 8 now. There's the mobile top 10, the Docker top 10, the privacy top 10, and then things like serverless and cloud native, IoT, machine learning, a few others. So Blue can afford the good stuff. They literally have money to burn. IT spending for 2019, IT security spending for 2019 was about $106 billion globally. That's about 6% of the whole IT budget on average. Software publishers, internet services are more like 8.7%. Banks and financial services are like 7.3%. Government services are obviously spending the least. They're where that average gets brought back down to about 6%. That was nearly $1,200 per employee spent on IT security. Now, again, there's a discrepancy between the highest and lowest end of that spectrum. Software publishing internet services are nearly double that, sort of $2,400 per person, per employee. Banking and financial services, about $2,100. Insurance, about $2,000. Again, government services bring that down, way down. So what did they spend it all on? Well, the split's quite interesting. Operational security, operational infrastructure security, which covers about 50% of our blue team spend, covers things like general network security, identity and access management, privileged access management, endpoint security, and all the activities involved in data security are grouped into that operational split. The second biggest one is that slightly darker blue, vulnerability management and security monitoring, which is about 20%. So that includes things like vulnerability assessments, scans, some tools to do that, active discovery, remediation of vulnerability via some ticketing systems. It covers the SOC, Security Operations Center, and it covers the SIEM costs as well. 16%, which is the governance, risk and compliance area, focuses on an active role in securing companies' data via some kind of approved certified framework. So that's probably in Europe, that's probably going to be to support GDPR efforts, as well as in complying with some industry specific standards. So think about PCI, DSS, things like that. Then finally, 14% is spent on application security. And almost all of that goes to pay for penetration testing. So even that spend isn't really AppSec, it's very much red teaming. So why is Blue having to play catch up? Well, Blue is focused on the wrong things. Generally, traditional security focuses on static, long-lived designs or some point-in-time ideas of deployment. This is the analysis of vulnerability trends, a NIST publication from 2016, which I hope that they will renew. But it looked at CVEs from the previous 8 years. And most CVEs are, so 72.9% of CVEs are exploited security defects that were in code. We only spend about 14% of our budget on that little aspect of it. And 50% of our budget we're spending on the 13% of configuration CVEs. So we're spending half our money, blue team money, on the smallest portion of where the actual vulnerabilities are. Blue is also really overwhelmed. And this is actually from one of our own customers, one of the customers I've done some work with. About 96% of all changes flowed straight into production. This is a large banking environment. There was no involvement from the centralized security team. Only about 4% of changes, application changes, were self-selecting for a security review. The remaining teams all self-classified their changes as trivial change, and that was primarily to avoid a 4 to 6 week delay. Central security team is completely swamped, even at that point, dealing with just 4% of the change going to production. Blue also usually gets involved too late. There are many, many studies on this. It applies not just to security defects, but actually to all defects. But as a rule, the further you get into the application development lifecycle, moving from design through to production, the more expensive it becomes to actually fix a defect of any kind. And by the time it gets to production, it's incredibly hard to find and it's incredibly expensive to fix. So how can Blue catch up? Well, we remember our purpose. And going back to my big friendly giant, the giant in our story is the organization itself. We're all here to service that organization. And for the organization, delivery is absolutely critical. If we don't deliver, we have no customers. Without customers, we don't have money for very long, and then none of what we're doing really matters because we're not long for the world. So where does that leave us? Well, we all know that blue is better when working with red. So blue plus red equals purple. Purple teaming is a topic that we talk about a lot. It's a well-known phenomenon. It's something that's been discussed at BlackHat and DEF CON for years. And we know that blue is better than working with red. Purple has some cool stuff too. A couple of projects, some more OWASP tools I'd like to give shout outs to. Secure Flag, which is a fairly unusual project for a couple of reasons. It's also a commercial tool, so you can go out and spend some of your security budget on if you want to. But it's also a secure open platform. It's an OWASP open platform project. And it's about showing defenders how attackers work. So it's a training platform for various aspects of security. It covers a large portion of software security, but it also covers some operational aspects as well. As an open platform, it's open source with a good number of community credit exercises. The commercial version provides all of that, as well as offering some software as a service and with loads more exercise and things like that. Juice Shop, which is the #1 vulnerable web application for learning, both sides of attack and defense from a dev perspective. Take a look at the Juice Shop website. Look at the awesome testimonials. There, you can see them as the background to the slide very, very faintly there. Bjorn is an awesome individual, and he really pushes this project forward. Very, very open to hearing feedback, and please reach out if you find something there that you like or that you want changed. Security Shepherd, which also provides a training ground for Blue to learn some of Red's techniques. We're hoping to get a number of these projects like Juice Shop and Security Shepherd and Secure Flag into an OWASP members portal, so that OWASP members can actually be able to leverage some centrally managed, centrally run tools. Dependency check, which is the #1 go-to, at least in my world, for SCA, software composition analysis, which completely covers the problem child of #9 on the OWASP top 10, which talks about the use of insecure software components. The problem is that we have blue and red combined, but they're seriously outnumbered. We'd like purple team to provide us with the answers, for it to be everything we need. But the truth is we're still playing catch up, because it just means that blue understands more of red's attack vectors now. It doesn't gain much capacity for blue in defending. So how do we scale? Well, developers, green, generally outnumber security folks by about 100 to 1. Most organizations, that ratio is fairly constant. So if we got developers involved in helping to secure that environment, then we could 100x our ability, our capability to defend. So better together. Purple and green equals white. You'll notice that by very happy coincidence, that actually creates a nice little space for white hats to flourish in. For white, it's about the full life cycle. When we add green, we do so by performing security at all aspects, all areas of delivery, through the life cycle of developing and running a service. So right the way through, secure design, static code analysis, everything needs to happen from the beginning, until we get all the way through to runtime application self-protection at the end, running in production for the applications that are the biggest attack surface. We make security a question of quality, software quality again. This is actually the ISO standard for software quality, ISO 25010 to be exact. And it clearly has security as a band of non-functional requirements that should be embedded into software. So how can OWASP help white to succeed? Well, we have tools, so many great tools. As I said, 150 project that covers all manner of things. We also build the standards for measuring application quality. It's the ASVS and the derivatives, the mobile ASVS, the IoT ASVS, for example. And for measuring development teams' maturity, like OWASP SAM or DSOM. And we have community, a community of green, red, and blue. And that community allows us to get more of that security knowledge out there to the rest of our teams. So how can you help us to help white? Well, #1, you can get involved with projects. Not all projects require you to be able to write code. Adding your knowledge, which is incredibly valuable and greatly needed, and just even showing an interest in a particular project can help drive improvements in that project. It helps move that project forward, and it gives the people who are running that project a feeling that what they're doing, their work is appreciated and worthwhile. Get involved with the community. Join a chapter or start one if there's none near you. Consider volunteering your time to speak at chapter meetings. I know that all chapter leaders are looking for speakers, especially now with everyone being able to speak everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are anymore. You can reach out and speak at random chapters around the world. Chapter meetings are free and open to everyone, members or non-members alike. So whether it's an online meet or it's an in-person meet where there's possibly some snacks or some soft drinks or some drinks catered as well as part of the sponsored event, it's free for everyone to attend. Once conferences are a real thing in real life, do one. Get out there to one of the AppSec conferences, the OWASP Global AppSec or the AppSec Days conferences. While they happen virtually, join us for ours. The best part about the virtual conferences is you can join them from anywhere at any time. You'll be surprised at how much like a B-Sides event an OWASP conference really is. Join up, get your companies to consider corporate sponsorship. Most of the tools, all of the meetings, pretty much all the things the foundation does comes from donations like these. There are 140 million developers worldwide, according to Anna Mleko of the Future Processing business blog. That means less than 500,000 security folks worldwide. We need to get a chunk of those devs to join us on site. So reach out to your development teams as well. Get them to go visit an OWASP meetup. Get them to look at the OWASP website and look at the tools that are available there. Get them to start using some of the cheat sheets, some of the other great resources that OWASP has available. My thanks to Roald Dahl for some memorable characters, and a very special thanks to Sir Quentin Blake for bringing them to life in those great illustrations. Illustrations and the characters in this presentation are theirs, and my apologies to them for abusing them in the way that I did. I'm very happy to take questions now or on Twitter. Just at me on Twitter. And again, questions about the foundation or projects that I'm involved with, please reach out to me on my owasp.org email address. Commercial questions about getting an AppSec program to be effective are also welcome, but then please send that to my secure delivery address. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions, if there are any. So I see there's a couple of questions coming through on the chat. One of them that I can see here is, what is the OWASP position regarding security champions to promote security within devs? That depends on who you ask within the foundation. I think everyone in the foundation, everyone involved in application security, involved with OWASP in any way, shape, or form, believes it's a really good idea to get devs involved, more involved with security. And I think that what I presented here really gives a good understanding of my view on that. Security champion programs are a good way to do this. It does work as long as you do it properly. I'm going to go with, as long as you do it properly, because it is complicated. You can't take a dev and make them a security person and then expect them to not do development work, because they're still going to be asked to produce features and they're going to still need to do that. By the same token, you can't take a security person and just dump them into an application development project and expect them to do something there. But definitely having someone on the team who champions the cause of security is definitely a good approach. It's definitely how dev teams have quality experts. There's definitely, it's the approach that development teams take to scaling problems. They have someone in the team who's, finds that, is passionate about that, finds that important. And when you find those individuals within your organization, you definitely need to nurture them. It's important. If you have a question, I don't know whether you want to unmute people so they can ask the question, or if they just want to, yeah.
You should be able to unmute yourself. So let me see.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Actually, my question is regarding machine learning security. So are there any procedures with OWASP regarding machine learning security and data science security?
There are a lot of projects that are keen to get machine learning involved. And as I said, there's even an OWASP top 10 for machine learning. So there are a few projects that are using machine learning for security purposes, or that are looking at the security implications that machine learning might have. I'm not personally involved with those projects. Machine learning is still, in my mind, it's still a very complicated thing. So I leave that to the experts who have far more understanding of it. But take a look on the OWASP website. The search function is pretty decent there now. The new website has been released, actually the beginning of this year. So just do a search on there. Otherwise, feel free to join the OWASP Slack channels, and on the OWASP Slack, you can reach out to the machine learning group. I'm sure there is a channel specifically for machine learning on there.
Okay, thank you. May I ask another question, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Um, my question is regarding the same subject. Do you see any future of cybersecurity engineers, especially with machine learning, with AI security? Because nowadays authentication is using facial recognition, which is let's say to which there are a lot of attacks, just like presentation attacks, etc. For example, there are also voice print recognition, which is also to which also there are a lot of attacks. So do you see any future of that? I mean, new jobs for cybersecurity engineers who are specialized, especially in AI security?
Definitely. I think that the need for humans to be involved in security is never going to go away. Um, Despite the fact that computers are able to think faster than us, they're still bound by their imaginations, which is non-existent. Whereas humans are still capable of dreaming things that aren't possible today. So I think humans are going to still play an important role in defending. And maybe I should be clear that I think that the red team and the blue team will continue to exist. Those roles are critical to an organization from a security point of view. Perhaps they will change as the threats evolve. They have evolved over time already, and I think we'll continue to see that. But I definitely think that there are careers in cybersecurity, and they will be for, well, for the future that I can see, as far as I can imagine it, there will always be a role for humans involved in cybersecurity.
Thank you so much for your answer, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure. I see there's another question in the chat. Which color do you think the best suit for validation engineer? And then question with a red with a winky face. So it depends on what type of validation you mean. If you mean the individuals involved in quality assurance from a software perspective, I think that QAs are very close to red team when it comes to the delivery pipeline. So people who are actually involved in delivery software. If you mean just purely pen testing and testing your environment internally, that is the role of red. That's exactly what they do. And it's a role that they'll continue to do. The difference is that the individuals who are involved in that need to collaborate more with development and get involved with testing products as we're building them. And they need to get more involved with the blue team and help them to understand what the attacks look like. I will make this presentation available. I'm sure that BlackHat will publish it as well, but I will make it available as well from the OWASP website. At least I'll ask Andrew to do that some way. If there's any other questions, I'm more than happy to take them. Feel free just to unmute your mic and ask the question. I think that's probably the easiest. If I have missed a question in the chat, please just repeat it.
I ask my question because I wonder about career in security, and I wondering where to start. And I think red teaming could be a good start for me because of my experience, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Well, so it depends on what your experience is. I think the reality is that
I'm testing firmware.
So you're involved in software security testing.
Yeah, many times finding security bugs. So maybe it's good. What do you think?
Yeah, so you're already embedded with a development team as part of a testing group. That's the perfect position for someone to be involved in going down the path of red team, or perhaps being that security champion within the team, pointing out the security issues and highlighting the best approaches to avoid those problems in the first place. But yeah, you definitely could take a career on the red team.
Thank you.
That's actually something I probably should have mentioned. One of the projects I'm involved with is the application security curriculum, the open application security curriculum for that the OWASP project is trying to, the OWASP Foundation is trying to create. One of the things that we've specifically targeted as a key output from the project is going to be how to get involved in application security. Mainly because there are lots of folks who would like to get more involved with the security side of things, but don't know how to make the jump from either development or from QA, or possibly even from the ownership of a product side into more security focused aspects of it. Or people who are very heavily involved in security, perhaps pen testing, or very involved with security from a compliance perspective, and they'd like to move towards application security. We definitely need more folks involved in that area. There's lots of really good individuals involved with the foundation who talk about the shortage of skilled individuals being involved in those teams. So try and put together a how to get more involved, how to move your career towards application security. So keep an eye on the application security curriculum projects. Hopefully we'll have something out before Christmas, but the moment I say that, I know I'm shooting myself in the foot. If there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm happy to give you guys a little bit of time back today. Feel free to reach out to me. As I said, grab my email address or make a note of my Twitter handle and then just reach out to me on Twitter, whichever is easiest. Yeah, thank you all for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Have a nice day.